Welcome to Ask Ye Hear Ye.
Yep.
Let's share stories inspired by the hexagrams together. So today we are diving into a dilemma that I think feels painfully familiar to anyone who's been in a long-term relationship. It's that quiet tug of war, between the shared history and the separate desires of two people.
Right.
We have a listener who's caught in this annual travel conflict. Her husband always wants to go to Kyoto. It's driven by this really powerful nostalgia. It's where they first traveled together.
She wants Paris.
She wants Paris.
Yeah.
She sees it as a space for self-renewal, for softness, as she put it. But here's the real issue. Year after year, he wins. His choice prevails.
Well, and what she's describing, it's not just a scheduling conflict, is it? It's a modern-day crossroads. She even said that, saying, I want to choose this year. It feels harder, more demanding than just giving in.
Yeah.
It's this fear that if she asserts herself, she'll damage the bond. And that's really what we need to unpack.
Absolutely. We're framing this whole personal struggle as a kind of universal hexagram, exploring that really deep tension between love and self.
So our mission today is to dig into the reading they received, which is Kui transforming to Gui Mei. This reading, it maps out a path from that distance back to reunion.
Okay.
We want to show that real love, in this context, it isn't about who gives in. It's about building a structure that lets both partners, walk their own parallel paths without losing sight of what the other person truly needs.
Okay, so let's start with the hard truth then. The first hexagram, Kui, that's the diagnosis. It's usually translated as opposition or estrangement. What does the imagery of Kui tell us about why this is so persistent?
Kui signifies an unseen split. Symbolically, it's fire over a lake.
Fire over a lake.
Yeah. Fire naturally rises. The lake water softness naturally descends. They're moving in opposite directions, even though they're in the same vessel, so to speak. It mirrors their conflict perfectly.
Whoa, that's powerful. So the husband, with Kyoto, he's looking backward. He's trying to recapture the heat of the past, the fire.
Exactly. And the wife, with Paris, she's seeking nurture, a new reflective space. The lake.
They both want to be close, but they're just pulled in different directions.
Precisely. And Kui shows us that the problem isn't really Kyoto versus Paris. It's that their core desires right now are just not aligned. She needs self-nurturing, and he needs the security he finds in nostalgia.
The sources gave us a couple of really evocative lines that speak to this. The first one translates to something like, seeing the desire but feeling the distance.
And that phrase just perfectly captures the dilemma, doesn't it? They can see the longing in each other. She knows Kyoto means comfort to him. He knows Paris is important to her. But they can't help but feel the chasm between their own needs.
It's the gap between recognizing it and actually accepting it.
Right. And then the second line gives this pretty stern warning about just letting it go on like this.
What's that?
If incompatibility builds from one-sided compliance, it will become pressure. This is the real risk of the husband always winning. And that's the deepest insight from Kui. When you ignore the split, when one person just gives up their desire for the sake of peace, that surrender doesn't just disappear. It builds up. It becomes resentment.
It turns the unseen split into real, dangerous pressure.
Yes. Far more damaging than the, temporary heat of an argument. The whole goal is to acknowledge the split now so the relationship isn't fractured by that undercurrent later on.
That reframes the whole discussion. It means the argument is actually a necessary path toward real warmth.
It is.
So if Kui is the diagnosis of the separation, how do we start to bridge that distance? The sources lay out what they call 4 stations, these practical stages for a structured negotiation.
We start with what the source calls speaking the wind. This is the first stage. It's all about emotional expression, but keeping it light, keeping it soft.
Speaking the wind.
Yeah. Inside, the feeling is probably impatient, that little paper boat just floating toward Paris. But the key is to express that lightness without forcing a choice.
The strategy here is incredibly specific, though. It says to sit down and state the 3 most desired scenes, not the destination, and ask, why is that picture important? But I have to ask, isn't that just adding another layer of abstraction? If she wants Paris, why not just say Paris?
Because saying Paris immediately triggers his defense mechanism.
His need for Kyoto.
His need for Kyoto. By speaking the wind's direction, you're communicating the value behind the desire. So for the wife, a scene might be, I picture myself sitting quietly at a little cafe for 2 hours, just watching the world go by.
Okay.
And for him, it might be, I want to see the sunset from that balcony where we first stayed. They're sharing the meaning of the trip, not just fighting over the label on the map.
That makes a lot of sense. You're practicing being vulnerable without the immediate pressure of a transaction.
Exactly.
So if Station 1 is speaking the wind, Station 2 must be about catching it, turning that soft desire into something more concrete. This is clarity and structure.
Exactly right. We're shifting from that abstract feeling to really practical expectations. And this stage acknowledges that, yeah, the wife would love the museums in Paris, but the husband still needs those cherry blossoms. Expectation and loss can coexist.
And the practical step here is list making,
Mhm.
turning abstract wants into concrete, negotiable terms. So you create 2 lists, non-negotiables, the hard lines, budget, time of year,
Right.
and exchangeables, the softer wishes like specific activities or the pace of the trip.
And the source material is very clear about using 3 red lines to define the most critical terms. This formalizes it.
Okay, what kind of red lines?
For example, we will only take 1 major international trip per year. That's a red line. The budget is locked at X amount. And the really crucial one,
Let me guess. The choice rotates.
the choice rotates annually and it's locked in well in advance. When you formalize the terms like that, you take away so much of the emotional guesswork and confusion.
Okay, that structure is really sound. But the next stage, Station 3, the crucial moment, that feels like the most difficult part. This is where communication can just completely break down.
It's the inflection point for sure. And the tension is high. The emotional tide is just full of fear of being selfish, fear of hurting the relationship. The wisdom here is that language, when it's used gently, can prevent all that misunderstanding.
So what's the actionable step?
It's twofold. First, you use a buffer phrase. You open with something like, there's a small thing I want to share that's important to us, and I just need your full focus for a moment.
Okay.
Then you express your needs using I need language, not you need to accusations.
And then the sources advise what feels like the most difficult step of all, allowing for 30 seconds of silence afterward to let the message sink in. But for a couple that's already tense, isn't demanding 30 seconds of silence going to escalate the tension, make it feel performative?
That is a crucial question. And you're right, if the silence is used aggressively, it will absolutely fail. But the purpose of the silence, according to the sources, isn't to wait for a reply. It's to force a pause in the reaction. Most couples just immediately leap to their defense or to a counterargument. That 30 seconds ensures the message, that I need statement, is fully processed emotionally before a reasoned response can even be formulated. It turns conflict into consideration.
So it forces both of you to just breathe and hold space for the other person's vulnerability.
Yes. It asks you to acknowledge the tension, not immediately try to fix it.
That makes the silence a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
And that leads us to the final breakthrough, Station 4, the sincere breakthrough.
This is where that anxiety can finally give way to relief, through a clear commitment. Sincerity is the key that unlocks the next path, and it's symbolized by the transformation into Gui Mei.
And the sincerity is shown through these practical, gentle solutions. The source gives us 3 really good options.
It does.
The first one is rotation. Agree to Kyoto this year, but formalize her choice, Paris, for next year. Write it down, sign it, put it in the shared calendar.
Right, it removes the annual fight before it even starts.
And they're splitting. Convert that one long contested trip into 2 shorter trips. This way, the budget and time are balanced, and each person gets a win every year. It just reduces the pressure on that single vacation.
A great option.
And the third, compromise, is maybe the most nuanced. You take the main trip to Kyoto, but you carve out 3 dedicated, non-negotiable days for her to have her own Paris-style tiny alley exploration.
So that promise is built into the current trip.
Exactly.
And the powerful insight here is that a gentle promise, when it's formalized in a structure, carries so much more enduring power than intense insistence. That is how you move from the opposition of coup to the reconciliation of Gui Mei.
Let's talk about that transition, the final hexagram Gui Mei. It's often called the marrying maiden or reunion. What does that tell us about the long-term health of the relationship once this process is done?
Well, if Kui highlights the destructive potential of resentment, Gui Mei is the gentle arrangement that neutralizes it. It says that acknowledging the split isn't a weakness. It's actually a commitment to an honest partnership. You don't have to swallow your wish for Paris, but you also can't make yourself the sole rule because that damages the bond. Gui Mei is recognizing that real closeness requires parallel movement, not a merged identity.
So if our listener wants to start this shift tonight, beyond just planning a vacation, what are 3 immediate small things they can do to embrace that sincerity of Gui Mei?
First, tonight, over a quiet dinner, just share the precise mental image of Paris. But with genuine enthusiasm, don't frame it as a demand. Just let the beauty of the desire be seen, like a beautiful postcard, so your partner understands the feeling you're chasing.
Okay, that's a great first step.
Second, establish the non-emotional bottom line. Talk about and agree on the hard limits for trip length and budget before you even attach them to a destination. Get the framework solid first.
So the negotiation isn't clouded by emotion.
Exactly. And third, propose that written, balanced exchange mechanism. Don't just agree to it verbally. Lock that choice, whether it's rotation or splitting into your shared calendar or planner. Make the sincerity concrete. Make it unavoidable.
True closeness, it turns out, requires not just empathy, but these careful, structured arrangements that honor both of your parallel paths. And when you look back, you won't just see who you were in Kyoto, but who you are together now, having navigated that distance with care and with honesty.
Thanks for listening to Ask Ye, Hear Ye. We'll be back next time to talk about more stories from other friends.